Well, what is up, guys? Time for your second video of the day. I thought I'd do a video talking about my Manchester, talking about the match day experience last week at Old Trafford, what that was like. Talk about our journey up there, and just talk about how what kind of a day it was. So it was a really fun day last Sunday. It's a day that I don't think I'll ever forget. It's one of the, I had one of the most unforgettable experiences I've ever had. Like, I don't think I've ever had an experience that I've enjoyed more than the matchday experience last week. The atmosphere inside Old Trafford last week was just absolutely incredible. Like, the fans were just unbelievable, and I don't mean that in a bad way. I think the fans were incredible. The view that we had was stunning. Like, we had a really good view of the pitch. So we were actually sat in the east stand, but we were sat like not so high up, but we were sat a little bit high up. So we had a good view of everything. Obviously, it was a really good game, and I'm glad we were watching United win and not lose. Would have ruined it a bit if we'd have lost the game. But I think, I'm glad that we did win at the end of the day. I'm glad that we got maximum points in that game. It was a very long day last week, because obviously our train was booked with Avanti for 9 o'clock, or we were 9:30, I think it was, or 9:30. So we had to be at London Euston for about 9 o'clock. So we got up at 7, got ready and everything. Came over here, and then we got in a cab down to we got in an Uber down to London Euston. And then we came back, and then obviously we had to get a mini cab on the way back because my mum was going to book another Uber to pick us up from London Euston, but was obviously by the time it was, it started charging extra, and they were asking for, I think, 47 quid it was they wanted for a cab from London Euston back to here. So we ended up getting a mini cab, and we paid for the mini cab out of the money that we had. Obviously it was our journey up to Manchester wasn't bad. The only thing about our journey to and from Manchester on last Sunday was Avanti West Coast trains were really busy that day because of problems with Northern trains. Northern trains had a driver shortage, and they weren't running services down to Stoke-on-Trent. Which meant that a lot of people were obviously relying on Avanti West Coast services on Sunday, which meant that they were busier than usual. And I guess if Northern trains had services running down to Stoke-on-Trent, Avanti West Coast services wouldn't be that busy. But that was the only kind of downside. We didn't have specific seats on the train up to Manchester, but on the train back down here to London, we did have reserved seats. We were in D13 and D4, D3 and D4. So, obviously at least we had specific seats for the journey back, so we didn't really have to worry about not getting a seat because we had specific seats. So we had no worries about that, obviously. But on the journey up to Manchester, we got lucky and we managed to find some seats. Obviously, we wanted a table seat, but we weren't able to get one. We did sit in we'd actually get a table seat eventually. So the services that we stopped at were, let me think. So we stopped at Milton Keynes, Stoke-on-Trent, Macclesfield, Stockport, and then Manchester Piccadilly. I don't think there was another stop before. And then on the way back we stopped off at Stockport, Macclesfield, Stoke-on-Trent, Rugby, then Milton Keynes, and then we went, and then obviously we got back to London Euston for about just after 9 o'clock, or just before 9 o'clock, about 5 to 9. And we got into London, we got into Manchester Piccadilly at 5 to 12. Now I have to say this, I think Manchester Piccadilly is one of my favourite, train stations here in the UK, if not my favourite train station in the UK. I just think it's a really nice station, like compared to some of the stations we have here in London. I feel like some of the stations here in London, or like some of the bigger stations here in London, are not quite as nice as what Manchester Piccadilly is. I feel like Manchester Piccadilly is such a nice train station. Um, you know, I mean, Manchester trams were a bit of a nightmare on Sunday. They remind me very much of like DLR. It's like when there's problems with the Manchester trams, you can see it, like you can really see that it has a knock-on effect, and it's the same with like the DLR and the London Underground here in London. If there's a problem with the DLR, or there's a problem with London Underground, or with any of the London Underground lines, it has a knock-on effect. And it was a bit like the problems with Northern Trains. Obviously, Northern Trains had a driver shortage, and that had a knock-on effect on the Avanti West Coast, as it meant that the Avanti West Coast train services to and from London that day, or to and from London, to and from London to and from Manchester, were very busy that day, as people obviously were relying on the Avanti West Coast trains to get to Stoke-on-Trent. Um, the only downside I think to that day was how packed the trams were, but I don't think that really ruined the experience. I wouldn't say it put me off of going to Manchester again for a match. Like, I hope it's something that we do get to do again. Would be like, would be amazing if we did. I know obviously it wasn't the first time my uncle had been to a match, but it was the first time for me. I mean, this year has been an incredible year. It's a year where two of my dreams have finally come true and have finally become a reality. Obviously, becoming an uncle for the first time, going to watch a match at Old Trafford for the first time. It wasn't the first time I'd been inside Old Trafford, but it was the first time I'd been to a match. We actually went up to Manchester about 6 years ago in 2018. Me, my uncle, my late granddad. We went up to Manchester, to Old Trafford for a stadium tour. And obviously, this, I did feel a little bit sad with, because obviously the last time we went to Old Trafford, my granddad was with us and he wasn't with us this time, but he was there with us in spirit. I know that for sure. Um, I mean, obviously, the whole experience itself was just, absolutely incredible. We had a really tremendous experience, and one that I don't think any of us will ever, I don't think I will ever forget. It was just such an iconic experience, and, I don't think, I don't think it's one I will ever forget. I think it's one that I will remember and cherish forever. I mean, obviously, we did have a bit of an unfriendly steward on the way in. He seemed a bit grumpy and a bit miserable, you know. Um, it is what it is. I will say for the mega store, like we were hoping to buy some things in the mega store, but unfortunately we weren't able to buy anything because it was on card only, which was a bit of a nuisance. They weren't accepting cash anywhere in the mega store, and I just thought that was a bit stupid. The fact that people were having to had only pay by card, like they couldn't pay with cash. As I was actually hoping to pick up one of my shirts that I needed, but I wasn't able to get it, so I actually went up to Stratford the following day on the Monday, and I actually got the shirt up at JD Sports for 80 quid, which funnily enough was the same price that they wanted for it in the mega store, so it wasn't like I'd spent less money on it in JD Sports, but at least I got it. I mean, obviously, it's definitely something that I would do again. I don't think there was anything that really kind of put me off going to Manchester on a match day again. I think it's something that I would do in a heartbeat. I was thinking about it the other day, and I was just thinking, what, I'd love to win the lottery. I'd love to have a decent ton of money. As if I had a decent amount of money, I would move up to Manchester, and then I would buy myself a season ticket for Manchester United. So, obviously it would make, because I think if you live up in places like that, up in Manchester, it's not so bad with regards to travelling to the home games. It makes that obviously a little bit easier, but when you're coming from all the way down here in London, all the way up to Manchester, to watch the game, it makes things a bit trickier. I mean, I won't say that we had any problems navigating London Euston or Manchester Piccadilly. I mean, obviously London Euston is not a station that we really use all that often anyway. We're not up that way, all that often. But yeah, I mean, if we wanted to go up to Birmingham, you see, my sister's there living in Tamworth, so we'd have to use London Euston if we were to go up there, because we'd have to get a train to Liverpool Lime Street, and that goes like it stops at one place, then stops at a second station, and then obviously it stops at Tamworth. So yeah, I mean, it was a great day. It's one that I don't think I will ever forget. Like, Manchester's funny. Like, it has that effect on you. Like, it makes you not want to leave. Like, I was so sad to be leaving Manchester last week. I had so much fun there. Like, it feels so different to London. It just has a completely different vibe to London. And I just think it's so much nicer than what London is. Like, to be honest with you, I don't feel proud to say that I live in London anymore, because London has become an absolute shithole, which is why I would love to move up to somewhere like Birmingham or Manchester or places like that, because they're so much better than London. And places like Birmingham and Manchester have a lot more to offer than what London does, because it just feels like London doesn't really have anything to offer anymore. It feels like there's no reason for anyone to actually live in London anymore, because it just doesn't, there's just nothing to offer. It has nothing to offer. It has nothing to make people want to live in London. I mean, if I could, I would move away. If I had the money to do that, I would do that probably tomorrow if I could. It's just... Like, it's just a financial side of things, isn't it? And it's a long way to go as well. But, I mean, obviously, like, I feel like I prefer Manchester to London without a doubt. But, hopefully, in years to come, we will be going, maybe in a few years' time, we will go up there again for a match. Would be really cool if we did get to do that again. It was nice to, it's nice to be able to say that I've now done that, and to say that I've experienced that now. Because I've been to Upton Park to watch a match, West Ham Wigan. We went to watch that when I was in primary school. Secondary school, we went after school to watch, I think it was it was either England versus San Marino or England versus Lithuania at Wembley, and we won 5-0. And then obviously we went to Old Trafford for a match as well, and then obviously last week, we went to watch Manchester United play Leicester City at Old Trafford, and I've actually, be back in review back in a minute. Hello, Wawas. Wawas. We love you, fucking Wawas. Good morning, man. I went downstairs to get a couple of things. So, this is the Manchester United match day programme that we got last week. Been a bit folded up, it's been in my bag. But yeah, this is the match day program I got last week. Cost about £4. And then this is the match day staff that we got last week as well. Manchester United versus Leicester City at Old Trafford, 10th of November 2024. So, and obviously at the top we've got season 2024-25. And that cost us £10. So, there were actually a lot of when we went down there, and when we went up there last week, there was actually a lot of guys outside the stadium selling the match day drafts, which was quite interesting. There's a lot of food stalls out there, so if you want to get yourself a burger or a hot dog or something like that, you can do. I would rate the match day experience and a solid 10. A solid 10 out of 10. One of the best experiences I've ever had, and as I said, it's an experience that I won't ever forget. It's an experience that I don't think you ever do forget. It's something that I dreamt of doing for years. It was something that for years I hoped would one day happen. It was a dream that I really hoped would one day become a reality, and I wasn't. I had no reason to believe it was going to happen this year, but it did happen this year, and that's and it was truly special. Just me and my uncle there for the day. It was nice, to be honest. Manchester United really played well in that game against Leicester. I have to say the finish from Garnacho for the third goal, that raised the roof of Old Trafford. The fans went crazy with that goal, but what a goal it was though. It felt like the match went really quick. It felt like within 10 minutes, it was time to go home. Like, we didn't really have a proper chance to really kind of get anything to eat, as well as we had so many issues with the trams. As obviously we had to be the match was at 2 o'clock, and by the time we got to the round, it was about 1 o'clock anyway, or getting on. It was just getting on for 1 o'clock. So it only really gave us an hour to kind of, it didn't really give us much time to kind of get something to eat and then get into the stadium. Like, it would have, that we wouldn't have been able to do. I don't think we'd have been able to do it. In the because we only had an hour, so. Obviously, and I think from what my uncle was saying, you have to. It was once a rule. I don't know if it still is, but there was once a rule at Old Trafford where you had to be in your seats about 20 minutes or half an hour before the match starts. So obviously, we got, and then obviously when we came out, obviously we had to be back at Manchester for about 6 o'clock, as our train back to London Euston was at 6:15. So we had to be back at about 6 by 6. We had a few issues with the trams again, which kind of ate into the time that we had, and again it meant that essentially we didn't really have a lot of time left. We didn't really have a lot of time to get anything to eat, before we had to get the train back. And it was a difficulty finding a place where, as I'm a Finnish eater anyway, so a bit tricky for me to, to find somewhere to eat. So we just ended up getting snacks and whatever and having those on the train back. Obviously, I think had there not been too many problems with the trams, we probably would have had a bit more time to kind of get something to eat before we had to go into the stadium. But because of the problem that the problems we had with the trams, we weren't, we didn't get to the ground until just before 1 o'clock. So we didn't really have that much time to kind of get anything to eat before we kind of went into the ground and got to our seats and everything, which of course itself would have taken a little bit of time, as it does take a little bit of time to kind of get into the stadium and everything, as they do badge checks and things like that before you go in. They search you to make sure you've got nothing on you. And that takes a little bit of time to sort all that out and get into the stadium or whatever. And but yeah, it was a lovely day. I'm sad it's all over. It was a good end. It was a great end to what had been a really great weekend. You know, last weekend was an absolute blast. And it's one I'll never forget. So yeah, I hope you've enjoyed this little video, my match day experience, my match day review. Is it something I would do again? Yes, without a doubt. You know, there's nothing that's put me off of doing it again. I think I'll definitely do it again. You know, and maybe in a few years' time, it's something we will get to do again. But who knows? Um, I mean, as I said, it would be so much better if we lived in Manchester. Like a season ticket. You know, it would be fun. But yeah, what a day it was. You know, a day that won't ever be forgotten. But I hope you've enjoyed this video, and I'll see you for another video soon. Bye bye.